Hi, Gary. Thanks for your video response, and I think you did bring up some very good issues. And I really think you really did put your finger on what the core is of what most people's objection is to what free will is. So let me see if I can summarize accurately your argument here, and then see if I can respond to it. And do correct me if I'm wrong, because there's no use responding to something if I haven't understood your argument correctly. So let me see if I got it here. Let me just briefly summarize. Um, you say I'm missing the core issue here. Where's the will, right? And yeah, I've done all these videos on free will, and I hardly ever mentioned will at all, right? So you characterize will in the following way, right? You say we base our decisions that we make and our actions upon our drives, our likes, our ethics, our beliefs, and our emotions. And you give a generic term for all of the above. You call them values, right? And you give a very interesting argument for why we can't choose all of our values, right? Because it's an infinite regress, right? Obviously some of these values have to just be axiomatic, as it were. We just have them, and otherwise it would lead to an infinite regress. I think it's a very clever argument. So since our values cause our actions, we don't really choose to do anything. We are constrained to do it by our values. Our values made us do it, right? So, since our actions are caused by our values, our actions happen by reflex action, what I've been calling in this video series stimulus response. And you say that if we're confronted by two or more stimuli, our brains do this calculation routine about which one we'll value more and then responds to it, and weighing which one will give us the greatest value when it's responded to. Okay? So, I think that's basically your argument. Okay? Our actions are caused by our values, and therefore we are constrained by our values. We don't have a choice. They're simply deterministically caused by them. Okay? So let me see if I can address your argument here. I'll do it in reverse order. So the first point, do our brains respond to the maximum value stimulus? I think a parable taught by a philosopher, Al-Ghazali, was in the Middle Ages. This issue's been around for a long time. Is very interesting here. Al-Ghazali was a Sufi philosopher. He told this parable of the camel who starved to death between two date palms because it didn't know which one was the closest. So, um, I totally agree. Okay, our values cause our actions, but it can't be just our values which are causing our actions, right? Because otherwise, you could completely immobilize somebody just by putting them equidistant, giving them two stimuli in opposite directions. They just sit there and wonder what to do, right? I mean, it can be as dumb as our values plus a coin flip is causing our actions, but it's not just our values which cause our actions. There's more to it than that. Okay, now this kind of opens up the door to our values cause our actions, but they don't cause our actions deterministically. Okay, it's never just the values. Okay, values just don't deterministically constrain our actions. All right. Now let me give another example here. Say that the value of fairness. All right. If you have kids, if you have two kids, or if you raise kids, or if you've seen kids interacting with their parents, you know they very definitely value fairness. So say you have a pie, and two kids are going to share this pie. Each one wants to get their fair share, i.e., each one wants half the pie. So their value is going to constrain their future action. If you give them this pie to divide up among themselves, this value will constrain their future action. But does it deterministically constrain their future action? Okay? They can divide the pie like this, or they can divide the pie like this. Either one of these is compatible with their value of fairness, right? So, yeah, the value of fairness here is feeding into the causal chain of what they're doing, for sure. I completely agree, okay? But it doesn't deterministically force any particular future action, all right? Now, how general is this in terms of values? Is it just sometimes this happens, or is this a very general phenomenon? I would argue this is a very general phenomenon here, okay? So let's look back over your list of values here and see if we can find which ones are deterministic causes and which ones are not deterministic causes. All right? You say we base our decisions upon our drives, our likes, our ethics, our beliefs, our emotions. Okay, I divide these into two categories, right? Descriptive and normative. I mean, you knew this was coming. Examples of deterministic cause. Okay, so drives and emotions. Okay, so drives. After 8 hours without eating, I just get hungry and then I get grouchy. This is deterministically predictable. After seeing a hot woman, I get horny. Okay, this is just, it's just, this really is stimulus response. Okay, bad temper, some things just make me angry. Okay, so yeah, I agree there's a class of these things which we just deterministically respond to. Okay, but I would argue that our ethics and our beliefs do not deterministically constrain us. Right? So, for example, the ethic of fairness. There's many ways to be fair. There's always many ways to fairly divide the pie. Beliefs, same thing. Okay, say you have a belief that fire will harm you. Right? This does constrain your actions. You don't go around setting yourself on fire. You don't go around touching hot stoves. But it doesn't deterministically constrain your action. Okay, there's many ways to act which aren't burnings of yourself. Right? Okay, so what do these two categories have in common? Okay, what allows us to group the non-deterministic ones in one group and the deterministic ones in another group? Okay, you knew this would be coming sooner or later, longtime viewers of my videos. Okay, I would argue that the distinction here is descriptive versus normative. Okay, my vest pocket specimen for this is your speed of your car bears a descriptive relationship to your speedometer. It describes how fast you are going. The speed of your car bears a normative relationship to the speed limit. How fast should you be going? Okay? And I would say descriptive causes of behavior are generally, by and large, deterministic. Right? I mean, if I'm hungry, I get grouchy. Normative causes of behavior, you should be fair. You should not touch the stove. These are always non-deterministic. Okay? The reason is you can't go from a should to an is deterministically. The first philosopher really to notice this was Hume in his book, A Treatise of Human Nature. Okay, I like to tell this parable of the unfair math question. Okay, say the speed limit is 55 miles an hour. How long will it take John to travel 55 miles? Okay, you just don't know, right? John may be speeding. He may be going slower than the speed limit. There may be a lot of traffic. Basically, the way that if you put up a speed limit on a road, it does causally constrain how fast they're going, but it doesn't deterministically causally constrain how fast the cars are going. It's just not a deterministic relationship between a speed limit sign and the speed that your cars are going. You just don't know. Okay. Now, is this just a matter of not knowing everything? I mean, if you just add more and more information to this, can you get to a deterministic situation? Okay, I would argue no. So first of all, no matter how exhaustively you characterize a system in normative terms, it still remains not deterministic. Let me illustrate. Okay, this is the parable of the nagging girlfriend. Okay, say you have a girlfriend and you're 55 miles away from her, and you call her up and tell her you're going to come over and visit. Okay, and she tells you that you should drive carefully. Okay, how long is it going to take you to arrive? You just don't know, right? And no matter how much normative information you add, you still can't predict. Okay, stipulate that you will drive safely. You will maintain the distance you should from the car in front of you. You will slow down as much as you should on slippery turns. You will maintain the proper blood alcohol level that you should. Okay, add as much information as you want. You still can't predict exactly how long that trip is going to take you, because no amount of shoulds adds up to an is. Okay? So the question becomes, all right, must we use this normative language, or can we get along without it? Okay, if we can just redescribe all of these normative things in terms of descriptive things, then my game is up. All right? But I'd argue we can't. That's kind of like asking, can we get along without speed limit signs? I really don't think so, okay? If we don't describe, say, ethics or fairness in normative terms, or beliefs in normative terms, we've changed the subject. I think there's facts about human beings, and I think the most important facts that we know about human beings absolutely have to be said in normative terms. They cannot be said in descriptive terms. Okay, so summary. Yes, our values do cause our actions. I completely agree with you. Okay, but no, this causation is not a deterministic causation. Okay, no matter what our values are, there's always multiple courses of action which are logically compatible with these values. Okay, all right. Now, of course, this isn't really enough to prove that we have free will. I'm just trying to open the door here, right? I'm just trying to pry this causation of our values to our actions far enough apart to leave room for free will, basically. Okay, in order to really nail it, though, I have to do several things, right? I have to, one, establish that the world isn't deterministic. Hence the elaborate math with respect to the non-deterministic neurons, Norton's dome, all this kind of stuff, right? My basic strategy here is saying, okay, we don't even have a language that we use to describe the world that's non-deterministic. Every language that we have which describes the world is a non-deterministic language. So why should we assume that the world itself is deterministic? Okay, and I still have to answer Urban Elf's challenge to show that randomness, it has some material benefit here, right? Randomness in the brain is more than just randomness in the brain. Okay, so stay tuned. I'll address these in a future video.